Hey everyone, Chris, the Thrift Shop Hustler here. I'm in the eBay studio today, and I was actually doing some cleaning on some Hummels, and I thought, why don't I make a video today on Hummels, a little bit about the history and some of the things that you can look for to see if you own any Hummels. Hummels to me are probably one of the greatest collectibles that have ever been created in the world of collectibles. Now, when I was younger, I used to think that collectibles like Hummel were worth an extreme amount of money, especially these little guys and girls right here, but you find out that they mass produce a lot of these things, and we're going to get into that in just a second. Now, Hummel started out in Germany in 1935. They were created by Berta Hummel, and they really took off after World War II because during World War II, obviously, Germany, Nazis, all that kind of stuff, the production was halted. But after the war, U.S. soldiers and other countries' soldiers took these items home, and they became highly collectible after that. And a lot of that's due to the Americans taking them back overseas and people wanting to collect these, and that's really where it all started, where it all came out. And unfortunately, Berta Hummel died prematurely at the age of 37, so she didn't really get to live to see her collectibles really take off and become these phenomenon in the collectible world. Also, just to let you guys know that Hummels actually stopped production in 2008, so it's been about 10 years since Hummels have stopped being produced. Now I'm going to go over a little bit about the tips and tricks of how to determine whether or not these little porcelain figures are Hummels, and show you guys the different maker's marks, because over the years there's about 8 or 9 maker's marks that have been produced, and there's slight variations on those. Okay, here we have 4 examples of some authentic Hummels. Now, over the years, there has been many fakes that have been produced, and usually you can just tell by flipping it underneath and seeing if it has the correct either Hummel or Goebel trademark, and we'll get into that in just a second. These come in about a semi-gloss finish. A lot of the fakes usually come in heavily glossed. They'll say made in China. They'll have nowhere underneath it that says or anything on there that says Hummel, and they're usually kind of almost the same kind of images also. They just won't be trademarked as Hummels. Now, one of the things that I was just noticing is that there are 8 different trademark logos, so that happens to help you determine what year your figures actually came out in. This one is a newer one, the ones with the Goebel and the B. Now, I'm not quite sure exactly what year Goebel bought out Hummel, but this one happens to be from the 50s. This one has just a regular V with the B sitting inside it, and this one is obviously a newer one. Now, another thing too is they produce these many times over the years, so they'll take a particular style like this one that's 2 girls sitting on a fence. They'll produce this like 4 or 5 different times over the years, and the only way you can tell what is usually by the trademark age in which particular one of the 8 it is. Now, there's slight variations on all those, and you can look up an infographic on Google. Another thing to talk about is sometimes these break very easily, so if you're going to be purchasing these, make sure you take a good look to make sure that the birds aren't re-glued on there or anything like that. Like this particular one, the duck has came off. Now, this was just a newer one, so this one happened to just come off naturally. Now, that's easily could be fixed, and that's not a problem. I'm talking about like if this piece of this phone came off, you can usually tell that someone glued it by the yellowing of the glue, because a lot of these are so old. Like I said, these started being created in 1935. Some of the people that use the older versions of glue, that turns to yellow over the years, so you can really tell whether or not it's been repaired. And that's one of the major things you're going to come across is, you know, not determining whether it's a fake or not, but determining has this been repaired, has this been broken, because broken Hummels like decrease in value tremendously, especially on the secondary market. Like this one happens to have some wax underneath it. You'll find that some of these have wax. They can easily be, you know, wiped off if you just use a damp cloth, a thin piece of t-shirt or something, and just be very careful you don't wipe away anything else. And so that is pretty much that. As you can see here, this one actually happens to have one of the newer Hummel kind of tags. A lot of the older ones, I think this one has it, has a paper label. And there's a couple other things too, is if you look underneath it, every piece will be stamped with a style number, and that's how you can look those up online. As you can see it right in the bottom just above the logo, and you can see what different ones were produced. And like I said, the older ones are going to have the paper label, the newer ones are going to have this plasticky kind of label, and you can easily determine what year your figure is just by the trademark logo on the back. This one happens to be from the 50s, and you can see it's got a paper label, so you know that's an older version of a Hummel. So that's pretty much the very basic rundown of Hummels. They're really awesome collectibles. They've depreciated a lot over the years. When I was younger, I thought that these things were like worth their weight in gold, but you find out that a lot of these pieces have decreased in value tremendously over the years and are not demanding the collectible money that they used to, especially in the 90s. These things would go for tons of money in the 90s. There's still Hummel collectors out there, but they usually like to collect the older ones, the ones that are in absolutely mint condition and have all their proper things like the label on there and haven't been repaired. So there is that. Once again, I'm Chris, the Thrift Shop Hustler. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely click the like button, subscribe for more videos, and we'll see you next time.
What she know about rocking the wolf on your noggin? What she knowin' about wearing a bird box skin? I'm digging, I'm searching right through that luggage. One man's trash, that's another man's granddad for donating that slap. Now I'm up in her. I'm in the key where you can find me in the. I'm not searching in the section.